We're going to get this meeting underway. I'm going to call this meeting of the Township of Ocean Environmental Commission to order. Roll call. Member Colton.
Here.
Member Gaudette.
Here.
Member Janetti. Member Lutz.
Here.
Member Brannon. Member Mamie. Alternate Tremonti.
Here.
Alternate Baxi. All right, statement of compliance with the open public meeting law. The notice requirements of the open public meeting law for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the annual notice was sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Coaster, posted in Town Hall and filed in the office of the Township Clerk on June 28th, 2024. We do have some guests with us tonight, and I'll let them introduce themselves when we get to our presentations portion, but we have minutes for our approval from our July 11th, 2024 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to read them? And if so, do you have a motion to accept?
I was absent from April's, but
July.
what's that year in July? The second July.
I don't know
I
what
vote
month it
July.
is.
It's September now.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were
I
in
motion. Oh, here we go. It's on the front page.
So, did you make a motion to move it?
Yes, they did.
Moved by Julian. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Are you opposing?
I just said aye, but then I raised my hand.
Any abstentions? Member Lutz is abstained. Okay. All right. We have a couple presentations tonight. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Ken to introduce our first guests.
Okay, Atlantic Shores is the first company actually building a wind farm offshore. If I said that right, Peter? That's correct. And so Peter Montalvo is a resident of Ocean Township, and he would like to.
Join us at the table.
Okay. Are you able to link that in? I am.
He's on there.
I'm
Okay.
in. I don't have sharing capability.
I will do that for you.
And Peter would like to tell us about
Yeah.
the project.
No, we're on to easy, and let it be known that alternate Baxi has arrived. Yeah, absolutely.
Here.
We got a chair for you, Angeli.
Come
Yeah,
join
we
us.
have a presentation.
We have a chair at the table.
Oh,
Thank you.
You have to unmute yourself.
We don't have
Wait.
to, but that's fine.
Would be glad
yeah. Well, we get that feedback.
We're right behind, it's right behind you, so I'm gonna.
Hey, why don't we slide that chair? Thank you. All right.
Nice to meet everybody. I'm Peter Montalvo, as Ken said, Ocean Township resident, and I work for Atlantic Shores Offshore Wind. Just sharing a little bit about what we do, how offshore wind works. I know there's a lot of questions around it, so hopefully after today it can be pretty refreshing as to what we are doing, what we have planned. But a little bit about me. From Cranford, a little North Jersey, Seton Hall Prep, and then went to Stevens for civil engineering. So spent a lot of time actually in it's not showing.
You presenter, you shouldn't have a problem.
It says I'm sharing.
There you go. Your mouse is there.
Can you blow it up? You want to go in slide mode? Thought it was. F5. Alright. That was better. It's showing them on this.
Okay, maybe I'll just use this for now. It's just, it seems like it's pretty lagged. Yeah, I think it's just a little lagged behind. Okay, so a little bit about Atlantic Shore. So real quick, Atlantic Shore is made up of EDF and Shell. So what happens is, Shell is obviously a very big energy company out of the UK, typical, long history in oil and gas that has a lot of experience offshore with building offshore structures. EDF is very focused in North America and the world on renewables, doing a lot of onshore solar, battery, and wind. So we have a good combination for offshore wind, understanding the technology, plus how to build things offshore. And we have over 200 people now all throughout the country, but building a big presence in New Jersey more and more each day. So this is our lease area. So we have up to 5 gigawatts of power to build. We have 3 lease areas. This is about 8 to 10 miles off of LBI, Atlantic City area. And then this goes as far as about 35 miles east. And so these areas are leased from the federal government, right? 3 nautical miles offshore is the federal boundary. But lots of acres, hundreds of thousands of acres to develop that we have. We have a lot of partnerships. I know it's hard to see, but this is a lot of colleges. We're working with most institutions, my alma mater, Stevens, Rowan, Stockton, Rutgers, Ocean County Community College. We're working with the EDA and a lot of partnerships with local townships and local entities, which is a big focus of ours. So the first major question that most people say is why offshore wind? Why is it important? So I'll say here's a map of the U.S. And the U.S., this is a map that shows kind of the strength of the wind in meters per second. And the darker it is, the more wind there is on average per meter squared. And what you can start to see is that offshore, there's actually a lot of wind that's very consistent compared to onshore. Obviously, the Midwest has some, but offshore, there's a lot, and we can have actually up to 56 gigawatts of power, which is very good, especially on the coasts that have such high loads like New York City, as an example. We have a lot of load coming, along the coast. So offshore wind helps kind of complete that and helps provide energy. This is a map out of PJM. So PJM manages this whole area of utilities. So our utility, First Energy, is managed by the Board of Utilities, but also regionally it's managed minute by minute, second by second. And what this slide shows you, this is negatives, and there's like a 2,000, 4,000, 6,000 megawatts. And essentially the past year in New Jersey, we have been importing energy every single day. So New Jersey's not exporting anything, meaning our load is much more than what we actually make in New Jersey. And so this will show, a negative 4,000. And that's kind of the picture of what New Jersey can be, is New Jersey can be an energy provider, and we can actually distribute energy regionally. That's how much energy we'll be able to provide. So it's, that's the actual PJM, like the benefits of what it is. And this is just a day, last week as I was preparing for this slide, is there are days of the year that cost of energy actually is right now pretty high. So this is 225 dollars a megawatt hour, which is very high, and that's like the red down here in South Jersey. But there are days of the year that energy, we are paying a high price for that because, one, we're not generating it when we need it, for the load. Is this the first time? A lot of people want to know, well, has this been done before? Well, globally, it started a long time ago. So it started about 25 years ago in Europe. So a lot of, Denmark, Germany, Norway have been doing a lot, but China and green here has picked it up the past, let's say, 8 years, in Asia significantly. But Europe and the UK are big players in the offshore wind industry. So globally, there's goals to grow all around in every continent. Every country is producing goals and goals. So these are pretty incredible goals of 380 gigawatts by 2030 for the world. And these are just global countries committing to offshore wind in general. So it's not the first time. It's been going on. We get a lot of our expertise. EDF, our parent company, comes from France, where they've been doing this quite some time. Shell in the UK as well. So it's the first time for the U.S. and we're growing and we're learning. It is not for the industry. And this is a map. Some people may not be as familiar with all of the subsea cables that are in the water today. So these are actually the active ones, and there's probably double the amount that are inactive and pieces that are inactive. But this is just, the east coast of the U.S., this is the Atlantic, and these are all live subsea cables that are installed. So the idea of, and this is a little picture of New Jersey, Manasquan actually has quite a few that are active in the Seagirt area as well, but there's active ones, and now this is kind of a cable lay installation vessel. So the equipment to install cables offshore is not new globally. We have experts here in New Jersey that work with me that have been doing this all throughout the world for quite some time. So, from this perspective, it's a mature cable market, and we've had cable manufacturers actually come to the U.S. and commit to build manufacturing facilities to help spur this industry, which is great, producing a lot of jobs. And this is a little picture of just right now, the picture, oil and gas, where do we get some of this experience from, but what is actually happening right now? This is a picture of the oil and gas pipelines today in the U.S., heavy in Texas, heavy, Ohio, Western Pennsylvania, right? They produce a lot in general from here and go northeast with a lot of load in the northeast. But what you'll see here is this is actually in the Gulf. So there are over 1,800 oil rigs in the ocean in the Gulf today. So they are continually, as we use more and more oil and gas. All these dots are oil rigs. All these yellow dots are actually oil rigs in the Gulf today. So there's more here than anywhere else in the world actually combined. And there's pipelines. If I showed you, you can see all the pipelines, about 45,000 pipelines in the ocean actively today. There's been more, over double that. Some have been decommissioned and removed. So just getting you a picture of, what's actually happening today and what will continue to increase as we, if we continue going, using oil and gas, which is a part of the overall plan, but it's just good for everyone to understand these aren't the only things, going in the ocean. A quick summary on our first project. So Atlantic City is our first project, and that is just this bottom half of this right here. And it produces 1.5 gigawatts. And we just call it right now, we're calling it Project 1. The water depth here, and you'll see we'll talk about the Outer Continental Shelf, and a lot of it allows fixed bottom foundations. So it's the cheapest of all solutions today. And what we have won is we've won an OREC with New Jersey for Project 1 with the Board of Public Utilities. And we're actually in the middle of a bid with the public utilities right now, actively. They'll be awarding a next set of projects at the end of the year. The OREC is essentially a 20-year agreement to buy power from New Jersey and sell power from New Jersey. So that is, an exciting time at the end of the year. But our one project is enough for 700 homes of electricity. So you can imagine we can build another project, Project 2, Project 3, 4, maybe 5.
700,000.
700,000. That's correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
you missed a few zeros.
Sorry. 700,000. Yeah, so in short, it's millions, and we can, in just our projects alone, not including the others, we could easily power essentially all of New Jersey and start from getting into the region, which is what is exciting about this. Just to kind of give you a picture of our commitments and where things happen. So a lot of along the Delaware River is where we're building the manufacturing facilities. So you may hear about the New Jersey Windport, and that is happening. And then you can hear also the EEW monopile facility. So there's two big manufacturing facilities that are being built here. And the reason why they need to be built there is because they need hundreds of acres of property, industrial use on the waterfront with deep drafts for vessels to take this equipment, load it on a vessel, and be able to ship it out to the Atlantic. So that is really the game plan for New Jersey. And it could be a leader for even the offshore wind farms that go further south and even further north. So we are committed to building our monopiles there, and there's some renderings what it'll look like. We purchased property over here, our O&M facility, so once it's in service, we will be going out of Atlantic City, and this is what the rendering of what that could look like going to and from the wind farm. So those are actively things. In terms of economic benefits, we've committed, and this does get audited in our bid. So this is part of the OREC with New Jersey is, $848 million direct to New Jersey. So we actually get audited on that number. We commit to it over the lifetime of the project. So it's a very real number, but that is all local jobs. We have many local entities, even in Monmouth County, consultants, contractors supporting us today, and all union labor. So very good for the economy. So what are the pieces of an offshore wind farm? So if you focus here, what do we do first? The first thing we do is we plan onshore. We work with communities, work with government affairs. We do engineering, and then we also do survey out in the ocean. So we survey. We get pictures of what's in the ground, right? What does the seabed look like? What areas to avoid? A lot of unexploded ordnances out there. A lot of wrecks, right? There's entities to work with for survey, Department of Defense, and we'll get into some of that coordination. But the geophysical and the geotechnical, and what it does, it gives you a bathymetry, so right, of the whole like how deep this area is, and this is our lease area, all the way up to where our cables will be. This is actually in Seagirt up here, and then this is in Atlantic City. And so we work with local surveying firms, many of them out of the kind of Cherry Hill area, but some here in Monmouth County as well, for testing, taking samples of the soil, and that's like kind of the first thing we do. The next is when we get into like manufacturing construction, we're building. When it's onshore, we're bringing a cable to connect the wind farm, right? So it's typical utility construction. The background PSE&G is just kind of normal utility construction. You have trenches in the ground, manholes in the ground, and you're going down the roads to connect from one station offshore to another. And then there's offshore installations, and then we are manufacturing different pieces offshore. So some interesting facts about wind turbines. So we have made public our selection on who we will select for the first project, and it is a significant amount of size. So there is, just some pictures of how it works. Some people ask, well, how high off of there? It's a minimum of 23 meters from the water to the bottom of the blade, which is an Army Corps standard. In total, it could be up to 1,000 feet high, so very high. They can produce, one wind turbine can produce 80 gigawatt hours a year compared to your average home per year. So very long, and that's why offshore works, because onshore, if you try building something this big, you couldn't even get it down the roads or under the bridges. You couldn't even transport a blade that's this big. It's 115 meters long, each one of these blades. So that is why you can capture so much more offshore that's already blowing, that's 3 times as strong, by just getting a bigger vessel and then shipping that vessel off to shore. And there is cut in and cut out speeds. And so what we'll focus on today is the monopiles. That's why this started here, but there are various types of foundations that are installed, some with like tension wires, and they call it kind of floating. But what we mostly do in the outer continental shelf, because it's pretty shallow, is we do a monopile installation and a lattice structure. Those are the two main most mature solutions. But if you're in California, which like California and Oregon are considering, and they have like 900 meters of depth, 1,000 meters of depth, they get into the floating world. But we are not there yet. All the wind turbines are connected in series, like by cables, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to a substation. So a substation, you may see some around here. This is a much bigger substation, but similar equipment, breakers like we have in our house, transformers, that collect all of it, and then they will export that cable to the shore. And then cables, I mentioned earlier, these technologies are very common, but there's various different ways to install it. But the most typical is to install it while you bury it with different types of jet trenchers that pressurize water. They use remote operated vessels that'll kind of tag behind a vessel, that'll come along and they'll just be jettying in the ground. And that is how the cables are installed. And there's operation and maintenance. So we have a facility we are building and we've gotten our permits for, and we're working on with Atlantic City on how to operate and maintain a life of 30 years and what vessels to use. And we were just talking about some of the technology that's being advanced. A lot of these ships are being created for the first time now in the U.S., but we are looking at advancing the types of fuel we use for operations and maintenance. And things like ammonia, things like hydrogen, to continue to research and develop the best use for the lifetime of the project, what these are actually using from a fuel perspective. So you may ask, well, how does this process even start? It starts with the federal government. They identify areas. They have an auction for this lease area. They'll first say, hey, we're looking at these areas, Paul McCall area out in the ocean. Do you have any comments? Do you have any comments? Army Corps, Department of Defense, developers, please give us your feedback. Fishery, give us your feedback on these areas. Do you like this area? Do you not like this area? And then they come to an agreement after 2 years and say, okay, this is the area we're going to select. We're going to auction this. And it's a pretty intense day where everyone is refreshing because every half hour, every hour, there's another bid, just like a normal auction until someone bids someone else out. And so there was a recent one done, which I'll touch on, but you essentially have a long federal permitting process that goes over all the survey and how you're going to do the construction of the, like this is the window of construction right here, right? It's not that much, but a lot to do beforehand, permitting and working with all of the agencies offshore. And this is an example of just 2 weeks ago, so August 14th, there was an auction, and this is Delaware and Maryland, where the government said, hey, these areas we're looking at public, what do you think of these areas? One of the developers, this wasn't us, said, we like these areas in green and you should auction these areas in green. They did more consultation and they chose these areas to auction. The auction went, and there was an award on August 15th. One was $78 million, and I think the other one was $20 million. So a real life just 2 weeks ago, and there's more scheduled for this year, more scheduled for next year, Oregon, the Gulf, and more areas being looked at. So from an environmental perspective, we can talk some of this. So monopiles, what do they do when they're out in the ocean? And we do have a handful of wind turbines that were installed a few years ago off of Rhode Island called Block Island, and this is an example of what we have the picture globally, but this is what happens when there's a structure offshore. So within weeks of Block Island, there was already mussels and different fauna growing along the monopile structure, and we can create and help create around the base a more eco-friendly type of solution because there's some scouring that we need to protect and make sure there's no scouring that happens. So this is actually very common. So in that area in the Gulf where there's 1,800 rigs, right, many of the fishermen actually like it because they are able to fish so well off of the rigs. And what they've actually done is created a program called Rigs to Reef, where they, instead of decommissioning it, maybe they cut it, lay it on its side, and create some kind of reef out in the Gulf. So yeah, it's a good thing. And good for the fishing industry. So bubble currents, right? So we do hammer these into the ground, right? So that is loud. One mitigation, and we look at different mitigations. The first one is can we vibrate it? One of our, I would say, competitors, Ørsted, just released maybe a month ago a technology that they feel can be vibrated for all of their projects, but obviously it's confidential to them. But we're working with, depends on the soil, can you just vibrate it with less soil? All right, the next step is, and this is a picture from actually Vineyard Wind, so Virginia is actually doing this actively, is you can kind of see these rings around these structures, and that's what this is showing. And they're essentially what you do is you put a hose on the ground, 2 circles around the foundation, you create pressure, and you create a wall of bubbles. And then you can begin your piling. So it creates a sound barrier for anything nearby. And obviously, what we also do is we have protected species PSOs, which I'll touch on in a second. Protected species observers on our vessels. I mentioned some of this, so there are other cables in the ground, so we do have to go over other cables. But things you can do, there's a company called Econcrete that helps create concrete mattresses that are more eco-friendly and create more of a bio-friendly crossing. So if you have to go over a gas line or go over a water line, you put this mattress to protect it, but you can see that it helps, it can be made out of certain material that just helps with the atmosphere, the natural habitat. And on the beaches, so this is always something, I think that's important. We go underneath the beaches, so we do not trench right through any beaches. Usually they're very protected, usually open space. But what we do is we HDD underneath the beach when we're installing the cable. So we are 80, 90, 100 feet below the beach, bringing our cables on shore. So it's just one way to remove any impact to any sensitive areas. We have buoys out in the ocean, and one thing we've decided to do is make all this information public. And so we have about 3 to 5 buoys at a time out there collecting data. And I think that's one of the more incredible things about offshore wind is having all of this monitoring out in the ocean. For the first time, we're learning some of the first things about how the wind really is for such a long time. So we've actually been, for 5 years, 4.5 years, we've had buoys out there, and that's data we've actually never had before. So it's pretty incredible, like what we can actually provide, to the knowledge. So usually whales is a topic. I know it's small, but what you can see here, all of these little dots are vessels on one day last year when I took a screen, or I think it was earlier today when I took a screenshot. So you can see from Florida to Maine, there's thousands of vessels in the ocean today. That is one of the biggest problems, and you can kind of see the markings of red and yellow. And this is a public website. You can go on marine traffic, just look marine vessel traffic, and this goes up in dark red to hundreds of thousands and millions of trips every single year. And where do we live? In the busiest area of all of North America. Elizabeth, the New York Port Authority is the busiest port in North America. So we have a lot of vessels out there. And the only ones that actually are required to have a looker that's looking out for endangered species are ones that are doing geotechnical and geophysical exploration. So if it's a cargo ship, if it's a fishing ship, most of these vessels do not have someone looking out for protected species. But in offshore wind, we do. At night, we have actually 24/7 people watching who are actually third party through the federal government watching out for any endangered species. The moment they see them, the job is stopped until they are confident enough that they don't see them any longer. So that is something, and they have independent reports that want to make sure is addressed, because probably there's 10 of these maybe for offshore wind, maybe 10 of them. So not a lot. And then this is just a little, you can look up the marine mammal stranding and see kind of the record of whales that have washed up. And specifically, this is New Jersey. This is directly from their website from 2002 to 2024 actively. And you can kind of see there's a history of different species having different deaths. So we do actively care about whales, and we do actively want to find a solution to help them. But obviously, having such an active harbor, having such an active area is very hard to do, as they are getting closer and closer to the shore. A little bit on EMF. What we just show here is just the common things in our household. I think we all are aware of EMF, and the TV, the iPad, the microwave, you name it. We do have EMF everywhere. The utility company, any pole that's HVAC, has EMF coming off of it anytime there's electricity going through a wire. So EMF is all around us. Every utility for every project, we always have an environmental statement, and we always have researched EMF. And what the World Health Organization, the WHO, what we've said nationally for the National Institute of Environmental Health is that EMF does not cause leukemia, which has been something that certain groups have said. So we want to make sure, and we bury all our cables. So onshore and offshore, all the cables are always buried, and that does help with EMF in terms of reducing how far the EMF goes. So we want to just address some of that and say thank you. That is all I had. Not sure how much time there is for any questions.
I'm sure folks have questions, so
That is great.
have at it.
Yes.
How do you project for rising sea level, and also storms. Like what do you do to protect against
Yeah.
damage? And then also,
So on storms, so the wind turbines do have a cut-off speed. So they have a cut-in, so it has to be in this model for about 3 meters per square for it to even start spinning. And then at 31 meters a second, it'll stop working. And we can always adjust the pitch of the blades and the yaw of the blade, and we can face it certain directions depending on the storm. But at a certain amount, we do not want, just like you don't want every single car to be able to go 200 miles an hour. You just shut it off and say it's better for wait till the storm is over for them to go. So it'll be locked in position during a storm, and they will not try to spin and keep up with, an insane amount of wind. In terms of the sea level, we do incorporate that into how high we go, because we are going off of the different sea levels, and that is part of our 30-year model. So we will make it for that to be included. Onshore equipment as well, and then also offshore, we're making sure it is high enough to accommodate sea level rise. So we are well aware of the sea level rising, and that's part of how high. One reason why we have at least it's around 90 to 100 feet to the bottom of the blade to the sea level.
She has a question.
Mary?
Thank you. Yes. My daughter worked at a wind farm in California. Her job was to sit and watch the sky and turn everything down if a bird came near the turning spokes of the wind farm. Is there any? I heard that you're taking care of the whales. Is there any provision to take care of any birds that could get caught in the rotating fans?
Yep. Yeah, so in terms of birds, so that is something that we are working actively with the federal government on our permits on how to accommodate for that. So we are actively, like, research and development is a big part of offshore wind because it's happening for the first time. So we are looking at ways to monitor and see ahead a migration of birds coming and potentially be able to shut down certain turbines that may be affected. The good thing about offshore wind is these don't go all up in one day. They go up, piece by piece over time. And there are, and what we've studied and what we studied in Europe especially, is that most species take an avoidance pattern. So they see something and then avoid it. They're about a half to 1 mile apart from each other. So there is what we feel adequate space for marine and birds to be able to fly through. They're not abutting right up next to each other. And there's other vessel reasons for that too. But we are looking at, you'll see on the back of every wind turbine a monitoring station. So we're looking at even things like lights and how there's aircraft lights that sometimes they may want as well about they can be off, but then when they detect an air flight, then they'll turn on. And so we're looking at ways to, in the research and development, to do that and include that in our projects. And to be clear on the timing as well, just to set expectations, nothing's been installed in New Jersey. We have not installed any turbines. The first project really was last year off Long Island. There's active construction in Virginia, active installation off of the New England area, but nothing right now. No installed features.
Was there like a disaster off Nantucket? There was like malfunction.
Yes. So one of the wind turbine blades in Nantucket during commissioning broke. Yeah.
And they couldn't use the ocean all summer, right? Because it was dangerous.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think it was they're about 6 to 8 miles off of the beach. Yeah.
So that'll be different than New Jersey because you won't be that close.
Yeah. We'll be further. I mean, accidents, I can't say accidents will never happen. I would say similar. We do have records of how long a wind turbine could fail. There are such things as failures on the project, but they're, I would say, very calculated. Like when we have a guarantee of we guarantee this will be available for a certain amount of hours every year. There's preventative maintenance, just like, a car, but then there's also what happens when something goes wrong. So that was an accident, wasn't good. I think we all acknowledge that. Yeah, I would say, part of the response too is obviously with the amount of vessels out in the ocean, there's obviously a lot of vessel accidents as well in the ocean too. We're not, yes.
So you're getting your blades from a different company than the one.
Correct. Our first project is not that company. I can't say that.
Okay, good.
Yes, yeah.
Other questions? Ken?
Two questions. The cable that goes under the beach, is that DC or AC?
So going forward, any project, our first project is HVAC. But going forward, all projects in New Jersey and New York are required to be at HVDC. And so, if you're not familiar, most of what we use is alternating current. So that's 3 phases. Usually there's 3 cores to a cable. HVDC actually has just 2 cables. It's much smaller. No EMF, no frequency associated with it. So it is much safer, HVDC. It's much less of an impact because there's two copper, 2 cables instead of 3, and it is much better technology overall.
Okay. The other is, what's the capacity factor?
Yeah. Well, I can say I can't give you the exact ones.
Approximately.
But yeah, I mean for offshore, where you could use probably 40%.
So when you give an estimate of, let's say, a gigawatt of power,
Yeah.
it really produces 40% of that on average.
Because you have to translate the energy, which is gigawatt hours, right? So we're just talking capacity, what it's capable of producing. But we have, let's say, tetrawatt hours per year. We're in tetrawatt hours per year of what our wind farm would produce.
Anybody else have a question? I just have one. I think you addressed a lot of the concerns that we've all read in the newspapers and the media and that we've heard. The only one that I didn't see on there is, what are they going to look like? If I'm standing in Atlantic City, what am I going to see?
Yeah, so in Atlantic City, yeah. And one thing you can do, a lot of these pictures are from our COP South. COP South is that long bar of federal permitting. It is one of the pieces, the construction and operations plan that goes public. And the one thing I will say is when you have to start a permitting process so far ahead of the technology before you're even doing the construction, I think you always permit the biggest, you always permit the most amount of turbines. That is something I think just commonly you always have the most amount of impact so that along the project you decrease what you're actually building. Because you can't come back down the road and say we're going to build more turbines. You can only build less. So that is a little caveat that I want. You will be able to see public information, but it doesn't mean that because we hit 1,000 feet in our permit that we started 6 years ago that we are building them to 1,000 feet. But the images and everything you'll see are what have to be in that federal permit. So to answer the question specifically, from Atlantic City, there are days throughout the year that you will be able to visually see them. They will have to be very clear days. And I think as just me personally, as I picture it, and that's Atlantic City, that is also LBI, and our areas along LBI. Obviously, we're talking about Monmouth County here, bringing cables up here, so we're well far and no line of sight. But there are days of the year that Atlantic City and LBI would see. And you learn a lot. There's obviously the curvature of the Earth, and you learn a lot about it. So you won't be able to see the full turbine, but they're tall enough for them.
All right. Anything else? Questions? All right. Well, listen, Peter, thank you so much for coming in and sharing. Is it possible for you to make this presentation available for us to send around?
Yeah. I'll just double check QA QC and would love to share around and happy to meet with anyone here in Ocean. So happy to address any questions, comments. We're pretty active in Monmouth County and doing a lot of work in Monmouth County. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
All right. So we have a treat tonight. We have 2 presentations. So turn it over to Nancy next.
I didn't realize I was.
You're right on the agenda, number 2.
So I would like to encourage the local restaurants to do what they call skip the stuff. And this is a newer program that a lot of organizations are working on, asking restaurants to not automatically put all the plastic utensils in your takeout bag. So you order some food on the phone or online, you go to pick it up, and it's loaded with plastic utensils, napkins, straws, condiments, sugar, salt, all this stuff. What do? You bring it home, you get your real silverware out, and you throw the plastic in a drawer, and you never use it. So there's a couple of towns locally that have signed ordinances already for this, and including Oceanport, Red Bank, Atlantic Highlands, Monmouth Beach. So
I thought I read Eatontown also has one.
They do? Oh, okay. It's not on the list that this organization sent me, but they might be. Yeah. So there's a group called Beyond Plastics, and they're really working hard on this. They want to make it a statewide ordinance. But in the meantime, they want to try to get local towns to just get their local ordinance passed. So what I'd like to do is start going literally restaurant to restaurant, bring literature from this organization, and try to get them to sign on to agree to do this. It's going to save money, and in the long run, we can hopefully reduce a lot of the waste. So it's something I wanted to work on. And Ed had mentioned we can group this with some other things you wanted to ask restaurants about in the town?
So when Nancy and I spoke about this, as part of going out to the restaurants to talk to them, it would be doing a survey and asking them, what do you think about this? What would work? How many things do you normally? And I'd kind of get some metrics about it, right? Instead of just going out to the restaurant and saying, we're going to do this thing, and it not being practical for the realities in Ocean, because every town is different. So there are other questions out there that we would love to ask businesses. Not a giant survey, because businesses are busy, they have things to do, but tack on a couple other questions about environmental issues in town and what businesses are thinking and how we can work with them. And one of them, Anjali, I brought up was the food waste that you're very interested in, about how can we incorporate some of that into this project, because they go hand in hand. One's at the front end, one's at the back end, but we're talking the same. How do we save these restaurants money? How do we save waste in town? So, so that's something I'd be interested in doing, and coming up with those questions. And Nancy, you said you already had, it was what, 5 questions by memory?
They have a survey from this organization, so all we have to do is change the title on the top, Ocean Township, instead of whatever other town. There was a girl in Westfield who designed a lot of it, so a lot of it says Westfield. But yeah, we just changed the headings on there and basically can use the same information. We don't have to recreate anything. And then we could add on whatever you'd like, or reduce their questions, or I'm all about keeping it shorter and simpler. So yeah. So what would be the next step? How do we get to?
So there's a couple things. My first is we've run into this in the past when we talked about doing surveys. You were talking about going out to the restaurants individually and giving them the survey. We're not asking the town to send it out, right? So that makes life so much easier. So in that way, I mean, I think that we can just add on questions, and you can go and ask for volunteers. If anyone wants to volunteer to go out, and I know that you're working with the Green Team as well, that's it. You can send us the questions, and we can look at them, and we can send some questions back to you. And you can take those suggestions or not, or you can ask. We can come back and have this discussion again at our October meeting and finalize it. Depends on how formal you want it to be. But
now, did you say you had to put something in front of the town council first?
No, for this.
Okay.
No.
To pass the ordinance.
To pass the ordinance,
You'll have to
yeah.
go
But not to
to
go out and ask the
Just
restaurants
questions.
what they want to do. I mean, and that'll inform what you eventually ask the council to do, and then you can bring the data that you have and say, this is what the restaurant said, this is what they're interested in, this is what we want to do, here's how it all lines up, and then you can have that discussion with the council and hear. And unfortunately, I saw that Kelly had a drop, but our council liaison can help facilitate that conversation as well. But for the survey to do that ground truthing, as it were.
You have a list, does the town provide a list of restaurants?
No, but that's a good question. Yeah, I was just thinking I would drive down 35.
Hey Donna, who does the restaurant permitting in town? Is there anyone in this room? Do you see that person here? Yeah, so you can talk to Donna.
Okay, great.
Donna will
Would
be
you
able
pull
to
like
get
an
you that.
Oprah request?
One of my many hats that I wear.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
I think you will be shocked at the number of restaurants we have in town.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a very, very long time ago. One of my first jobs out of college, I was going door to door. I tried door to door salesman for 5 business days and never went back. But I learned very rapidly how many different businesses there are that you drive by that don't even register. So I think you will be absolutely shocked at the volume of restaurants we have in town.
So yeah, I thought if I even just go to 5 a week and, just get to a couple, a bunch of them within a couple of weeks. So, and start to get a feel, but I'll start changing that survey and put our information on it. I'll send it to you and then.
Yeah, actually, send it to Donna, and Donna can send it out to the EC. Sorry, Donna.
My job.
And then we can add in questions. Again, I really think that the food waste, and we talked about it last. The 3 of us chatted. I think that's a really critical piece because they're a major driver of our food waste in town as well. So if we can figure out a way to I always forget what the replacement for the idiomatic expression I want to use that has to do with ornithological creatures. But if we can do 2 things at once, let's do it. Yes, we don't want to do anything like that. So I think if you can send it to Donna, and Donna sends it around, and I will leave it to you if you want to get any questions we have and incorporate them, or if you want to come back and have another conversation. That's up to you. But I think that this is a great idea. I think this is a good opportunity for the town to be proactive on this.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. And I have one other small thing. Should I wait till the end to talk about? It's Helpsy. They're a clothing donation organization.
Yeah, it's a good time.
So at the Green Fest, we had them drop off in so people could donate clothing. And I spoke to Angeli about we could do a tour. They kept offering to do a tour. So we have a date set September 17th. We're still working out the time. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
But if anyone's interested, it's right on Industrial Way in Eatontown, and we can go and tour the facility. It's supposed to be really cool.
What day of the week is that?
It's a
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah,
We do
I
have
think-
clothing.
You said the morning?
well, we were hoping to do afternoon because I work, but
But they said the sorters leave by 2 o'clock,
Right.
so they were hoping to get the morning.
Okay, keep us posted.
yeah.
Blast an
So
email.
We'll talk about.
Send it to Donna.
What do they exactly do with the?
So I think they do a combination of things. For Angeli, they do, I think, some recycling into just useful stuffing or something. And then I think they'll donate anything maybe that's usable to organizations that they can actually give to people to wear.
And then I think they have a set, they sell too on their website. If you go and look, like they actually have a website where they can make a profit off of like nicer things. So
Yeah, Norm, they can help you update your wardrobe.
Updatable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And just for Donna, can you introduce yourself for the
So
minutes?
my name is Sunil Asnani. Actually, my son is the one who's going to do the presentation. He had emailed you as well. Maybe it went to your junk last week.
Oh, I didn't see the
He was
email.
supposed to be on the agenda
Oh,
today
sure.
as well. So,
Welcome.
Yeah.
introduce yourself as well.
Thank you for letting me present, and also just thank you to Mr. Brennan. This is my project coach. So my name is Sunil Asnani, and I'm a junior at High Tech, and I'm a Life Scout at Troop 70. So I'm working on my Eagle Scout project, which is going to be an e-waste recycling drive. So some of you might have seen it around town, like on the big posters, or Human Services sent out an email about it. But I just wanted to come here today and just present it. So for my Eagle project, I'm organizing an e-waste recycling drive on September 14th from 10 to 2. So I started playing this over a year ago as a freshman at High Tech. And in school, I learned about all the dangers of e-waste, and but also like how beneficial it can be to recycle it. And I know that my mom and some other people here are actually part of the green team. So I've been volunteering at these like recycling events and like these green events, say. and I believe that like this is a great way to make the township greener and like recycle e-waste. So I presented this to the Township of Ocean, and I've gotten permission to do this project, which is September 14th. So it's been approved by Scout Troop, the Scout Council, the township, and I'm currently working on advertising the drive. So through social media, videos, posters, on intersections, yard signs, flyers at restaurants, and the electronic signs of the town. And so all these advertising methods are to increase awareness about the drive. And I came here today to ask advice from you guys and ask a few things. So any advice on just making the drive more successful and just pushing out the message more. And also I know some of you guys are passionate about volunteering and about the environment, and I was wondering if any adults would be willing to volunteer to help with some of the more dangerous tasks, I guess, because all my volunteers are gonna be scouts or high school kids, and like I trust them, but I don't know if like managing traffic, like just in case like I don't want something to go wrong. So I just came here to ask for advice and ask for if anyone would be free to volunteer, I guess.
So I only have one question. I mean, I'm sure others do too, but one of the things that I think people hesitate about when it comes to recycling e-waste in particular is if they're recycling a phone or an old computer, how do you protect the data that's on
So all the recycling is being done through Monmouth Wire and Computer Recycling, which is like a local business down Shafto Road. So in terms of data from computers, like hard drives, they physically shred them. So all that data is, and then they also wipe data, so like off phones or any other like storage, I guess. So they do all the recycling through industry. Well, all the recycling is like industry standard. So nothing is sent to landfills. Any data is wiped and, as I said, physically shredded. So they like secure like safe data removal or ensure safe data removal.
Did you get to see it or it goes into something?
I've been to their facility multiple times. I haven't seen it I haven't actually seen it destroyed, but there's they have a website, they show videos in their entire process of it in their facility.
Anyone else have questions on this?
Where is it?
Yeah.
So this is happening at Ocean Township pool parking lot.
Okay.
September 14th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
The pool is closed.
For advice, definitely getting out the who, what, where, when, why,
Yeah.
and
I'm sorry. Yeah. So I've been sending out a poster with all the
and you
information.
have like a digital flyer that could be spread on social media.
And I've gotten this 3 times.
Yeah.
I didn't get your email that you were going to be here, and I am so sorry, but I've gotten your flyers.
Yeah, send me the flyer, and I'm sure someone could put it on Ocean Cares.
I don't know. Maybe someone has a large social media following, Julia, that could post it on theirs.
Already, but yes, we'll put it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been putting on the green team.
Thanks.
And if you do have a video, if you can have that sent over to me
We have
too.
one.
Yeah.
And then I think that would be really good.
Yeah,
Is it you
showing
talking about it or?
It's actually just like a YouTube video with background music.
Perfect.
And showing what
Quick
to
links.
bring, right? Anything
Yeah.
from a phone to a digital camera.
Yeah. It can be they basically accept any electron. Their general rule is just anything with a plug is accepted.
Oh, okay.
But laptops, phones, TVs,
Vacuum cleaner.
Anything with a plug.
anything
And
like that.
all the things that they
Wow.
won't take off your curb because it has a plug, they will take there.
Brad Comer needs to know about this.
Oh, yeah.
He'll get the word out too.
Yeah.
So that's what we will do. We will.
Yeah, but I would also recommend, because there's a video, I would talk, I don't even know who would approve it, 'cause I don't know if Tom could approve it, but get it on our town YouTube channel or on our town cable channel. I mean, because this will be on our YouTube channel in a couple days, so so one, you'll get some, I don't know how many people actually watch this on YouTube. I don't think I want to
Big
know.
ratings.
Yeah, yeah, that whole 0. So I don't know that would help you for us particularly, but having a separate video on there, I know people do go look for the more interesting meetings. So
Is this Tom Arnone?
no,
That's our county commissioner.
yeah, no, this is
Tom Root.
yes. Tom Rue.
Oh, I know Tom.
Yeah.
He's
Um,
supervisor. I think he's a emergency management guy.
Yes.
Yep, he does a whole lot for the town, but including posting all of our things on our YouTube channel. So he'd be a great guy to reach out to see if he can get it up there for you. I'm trying to think, if you have not already talked.
On the website?
The township, they have it scheduled on the website, and then they've also been posting it on like their Facebook page.
Oh, great.
And I know there's a few civic clubs in town that you could reach out to as well, like the Italian American Association, which I can reach out to happily for you, but also the Chamber of Commerce and some of those other Rotary. Do we have any Rotary members on EC? I'm hearing none, so no. But Rotary Club would be another good one.
We're like generalized though, right? Like it's a Long Branch Asbury, or is it?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to be. They're not going to
Because we
like
don't
check our
have
IDs at the door, right?
Anybody,
Yeah.
everybody.
Exactly. So yeah, that'd be fine. And the more we want to get rid of e-waste. That's
That's the main.
Properly get rid of it.
properly get rid of e-waste. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, Norm.
Well, it's two things. One, so I heard if you have a hard drive, you can do it, right?
Yeah.
You can drill a hole through it. That was where the data is. Is that true or not true?
I don't think it's a hole. I think they just put it through like a shredder, like a paper shredder kind of for hard drives.
Yeah, Norm. It's not a vampire. They're not staking it through the heart.
No, you're talking about these things are metal.
Like, they have like a
It's a metal shredder.
Yeah, like an industrial.
big million pieces.
Okay. Number two, one of the things that I still got in my garage somewhere are my old smoke detectors. You know, the radioactivity material in the smoke detector. And the companies that make them will take it back if you're willing to spend the postage on it. But all of those things really shouldn't. Most people, I'm sure, just throw them into the waste basket. And it's actually radioactive.
Yeah.
Not the newer ones. I mean, those are really old stuff.
I don't know. Well, I don't know.
We don't judge Norm.
Goes with his wardrobe.
Although that is a good question. If they take those.
Like as I said before, they do like send 0 pounds to the landfill. Like anything that's hazardous that they can't recycle, I know they dispose of it properly.
Yeah.
I don't know about
problem.
radioactive.
Like, yeah.
Actually, I've got another one that's expiring pretty soon.
Do we have any other non-nuclear related questions?
There's 2 explosives to handle.
Yes. No explosives. I think that goes without saying. But
Great project.
Thank you.
yeah, that is a
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah. All right.
I'm saving it for July 4th.
We got some time.
Stop.
Push them harder on the volunteers.
Yeah, when you said traffic, you mean like to direct traffic?
Yeah.
So, we do have adult volunteers. Me and my wife are going to be there. We got
I haven't
one
seen
as
one.
well.
Where exactly is this all happening?
The Ocean Township pool parking lot, like next to the tennis court. So like the goal was like have everyone enter from the entrance, and then like have cones and like yard signs as like a one-way. So it's basically not gonna be like just a drive-through. Like you just unlock your car, the scouts will get everything out, and then you can just drive off through the one-way out west part.
We told the police.
Actually, I just thought of it that we're going to tell Tom Rue to be on top of it as well. Just,
The township is
because what happened
Human
last paper
services.
shredding.
How many hours is this going to
Recently.
be?
4 hours, 10 a.m. to
If
2.
this could be like, if the police going to be there in case there's a backup.
That's what they just asked.
You know what? We probably should.
And maybe talk to Mike Retreat.
I've been
Mike is the one who's actually there.
Because I feel like he could put up tents. Like I
Yeah,
feel like
I've been
just make
getting-
it look more like a,
Yeah, I've been he's actually signed off on my project.
Great.
So like he and Human Services are helping me with
Okay, that's good.
materials.
And when you talk to Tom, make sure that Tom knows that Norm has nuclear materials in his house that you should be aware of.
They have to leave them in one house.
All right.
Thank
Norm is
you.
actually only 40 years old.
All right. All right. It is our hour is up. So I think we're gonna postpone most of our things until next month, but there are a couple quick highlights that I want to make sure we touch. Thank you everyone who RSVP'd for this meeting. To Donna, I appreciate it. We need to make sure that we know we have quorum for these meetings. I'm sure you all noticed the aerators that have been installed in Deal Lake. There's a couple that are fountains that are lit up. There's a couple other ones that have gone in.
So those are authorized.
So you have seen them in Allenhurst?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they got lights.
I would love one next to Next Pizza.
Yes.
I would love that. But they're dredging the lake.
Their Lollipop Pond, last I heard, Lollipop Pond is on the dredging list, but it has not been funded for the dredging yet. They're still working out the details. Fireman's Pond is definitely getting dredged.
Okay, because I was reading the grant we just got.
Yeah.
So that's excluded, Lollipop Pond.
Last I heard, they don't know where to put the stuff, but it is on the list. Like
Yeah.
it's high on the list, but I think
Yeah.
they're still working out the
And
details.
I think in Fireman's Pond too, a fountain there as well.
See where.
Because you could tell when you go over the Allenhurst Bridge that it's clearly like the municipal line. Like these fountains are in Allenhurst. You know, they're not our fountains.
Yes.
So.
But have you seen the ones next to Deal Lake Barco?
No.
Yes. In that little lagoon, there's a whole bunch of them in there.
No way.
Yeah, but they're not the fountains, and they're not lit up, and they're not pretty. But they're there.
Oh, wow.
They're just kind of bubbling away.
Okay, I didn't know about those.
Yeah.
Are they to put like oxygen into
Mhm.
it?
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
I saw it
exactly
the other
what they're
day,
trying to
and
do.
it was like,
Uh-huh.
this is new.
Yeah. But speaking of Lollipop Pond, one of the other things, I'm sure you all saw that thanks to our former council liaison and now assemblywoman, we now have funding to redo the bridge, pier, whatever you want to call it, over Lollipop Pond. So that'll be done. And there was dredging funding included in that as well. Planning board approved a crazy new idea, luxury self-storage. One of the warehouses that had been previously approved up on top of the hill right next to the water tower in town they came back to change it from a general warehouse to luxury self-storage that we approved at our last one. Luxury self-storage is a brand new concept. I was unfamiliar with it, but apparently you can drive into your storage unit and it is about the size of my house, and I'm not exaggerating. But they're gonna put and you reviewed that plan, Norm, with the vegetation, and we made a couple tweaks to, they had fenced off areas that they were gonna sod, so they didn't have a way to mow them. So they're gonna make some changes. It might come back to you for a sign off, but yeah. And my only other question.
My mind doesn't go
I
there.
envision freezing your body for.
You probably could. Actually, one of the things, what was mind-boggling to me was every single unit, and there were, 16 units.
16 units.
16 units. Every unit, individual unit, will have an emergency backup gas power generator per unit, not for the building, for each unit. Actually, they have backups.
Right? It'll be cheaper than my.
Yeah. So, anyways. I did make a recommendation to the council that they need to review our ordinances and maybe contemplate more of these in the future, since they seem to be a up and coming trend. But I have not been to any of the zoning board meetings. Does anyone know what's going on with our billboards in less than 60 seconds? Because we can talk about this next week.
I think it's next week, right? Yeah. You went to the last meeting? Did you go to the last one?
No, the last one was postponed. I went to the first one.
Oh, the second one, next week they're having a.
They've got a third one that they're putting in the list.
Did you send the count the
Did you get the copy? Yes, they sent it.
Mm-hmm.
You sent it to me at 9:26 this morning, and I sent it out right away.
Wait, the one on the billboards?
Oh, that was yesterday. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I know, I saw it. I didn't know where it was in the process.
No, I'm saying, yeah, I did three things that basically said that. I was talking with Jim Higgins, and there's this whole thing about what is and isn't, and so on and so forth. So I just strictly stuck to the aesthetics. These billboards are gigantic. They're gigantic.
Yeah.
Keep going, you know, we're.
That's not, we know, we've heard. Where are we in the process? We have a meeting next
Well,
week,
there's a meeting with the,
Okay.
of some kind next week.
so that's where we are.
Right.
There's a meeting next week, so we'll find out what happens. All right, any other urgent business that can't wait till October? Angela?
I just wanted to update you guys at, I think next week, since the 17th, Tint Falls is gonna have another meeting where Tom Marione is gonna come and give an update. So I'm just gonna go there unofficially, I guess.
Unofficial, you are officially appointed as our liaison.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go there, and just take notes like I did last time and give you guys a report on, you know, what's actually happening in their progress in landfill. Because the rain is coming, so it's like, you know, winter is coming, the rain is coming.
Did they publish minutes or things for these meetings that you can do?
I have to look, I have to look exactly if they have published minutes. I know that sometimes, the county commissioner does post summaries of what's happened, which matches pretty much with what, you know, I've done.
I mean, that might save you some time.
Sure, yeah,
Find out.
sure. I just don't know what the turnaround time is, but I'll certainly try to coordinate that.
Sure. All right, I know that there's other things on our agenda, but in the interest of time, and since we covered so much ground tonight, do I have a
Second.
moved by Norm, seconded by Julia, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And how was your trip?